Alright, hello folks. So today, or in this video, we're going to be working on potentially the new engine for the prop RC car project, whatever we were calling it. Because the engine I'm using on it currently, it's buried back here a little bit, but you can see is right here. And that is a 125cc steel, I think it came off a steel weed whacker FS 86 or something, 88, 86, I don't remember. But basically, it's got a lot of wear on it, and it's not too big to begin with. This engine over here is in much better condition. I have it torn all apart, and I got it cleaned up earlier. I didn't show you that part, but basically, we're going to be putting it back together. And it's a 40cc engine. It's got some bore to it. And you can see, actually, you can kind of see a little cross-hatching left, I think. It's hard to tell, but see that? The marks that go sideways? That would not be made by the piston. So there's some of that original cross-hatching left, I think, which is very good. No scuffing, really. Very little. Maybe a little bit up there. Higher in the cylinder. Actually, have I been looking at the wrong spot? Oh, well, of course there's cross-hatching there because the piston doesn't even go down that low. Never mind. All right, so the piston rings only go down to this point right here. But even up there, it doesn't look too bad. There is a little bit of scuffing, but the other one was much worse. Believe me, the other one was much worse. You can go watch the video on me rebuilding that engine. I think it was an FS 86. But this is off an FS, steel FS 250R, I think. And this is like their top-of-the-line engine. So it's going to be making some power. I don't know how much, but probably quite a bit more than the other, maybe about double. So everything is just doing quite good. The rings were already free. They were very free, no issues there. Everything rotates nice and smoothly. You can see. And yeah, we're gonna be putting it back together and then mounting it on that deck. And unfortunately, we'll have to get, of course, yet another propeller for it because this engine's going to make way more torque, and so it'll take a much beefier, it'll just take a bigger propeller to utilize its full power. But let's put this thing together now. First thing we need to do is get the cylinder bore back on, which is always the hardest part. Also remembering which way it goes. You want to make sure your rings are lined up with these little pins that keep the rings from rotating. And then put oil all around. You can use two-stroke oil, of course, but I just use regular motor oil, and that works just fine. Then we take our cylinder and we'll drip some oil on the inside of this. Yes, got it. That's always a little hard, but it's way easier on a two-stroke than a bigger engine with really stiff rings, but. All right, we got it. Everything's pretty clean. So now we just push it down on here. She feels good. Ooh, she feels good. Now we'll bolt it back down. All right, so you want to get these as tight as you possibly can with just a screwdriver like this. And in fact, I've even had to put Loctite on these things before because they come loose sometimes. can see how nice the piston looks in there, and the connecting rod and everything. The exhaust port was a little dirty, a little full of carbon, but that's very normal for a two-stroke, and I just scraped as much of it out as I could. But yeah, this has a lot of hours on it. We used this, we had 35 acres when we lived in California, and this was the main weed eater we used, was this one. And so every year it would get hours and hours of use, cutting, you know, just tons and tons of grass. But it's still in good condition. The carburetor, not so much. I cleaned it up and everything, but the diaphragms are all super hard and need replaced. So I'm gonna need to get a carb rebuild kit for this, but everything else should work good. I took the clutch off of it, which is this piece is here. I mean, look at how cool that looks. The colors it turned. And this piece. And basically there's just the end of the crankshaft is threaded. So what I think I'm gonna do is find a pipe that has a hole in the center and tap it, or if it's already the right thread, but probably tap it to this thread and then screw it on there, and then I'll extend out a certain ways, then tap the other end and put a bolt in that and bolt on a propeller, because right now this is way too far in. You can see the propeller would be hitting all this stuff, so obviously this needs to be much farther out. But that's a project for a later time. Now, we don't need this thing. This is like a heat shield, because the muffler is supposed to go right here, and then the gas tank goes right below it. We will not be keeping the gas tank in its original position, and the muffler might also not be in its original position, so I'm gonna get rid of this piece of metal. It's already divided there, but just probably cut right through here. Some of these fins are very easy to break off. Feels wrong, but we're just gonna come right along here like that. So junk won't get in there while I'm cutting. Little shavings. All right, so that looks a lot better. So I cleaned it up with the wire wheel, and the wire wheel is so powerful on my bench grinder that it just literally cuts the aluminum, like it grinds it down, which it won't do to steel, but interesting. All right, well, actually, what is that sound? Let me take that out. Oh, that's just the washers on here. I got really worried for a second. I was like, no, did I leave something in the crankcase? But thankfully, no, it's just the washers on here. Okay, so now we'll get the intake sorted out. So there's this little rubber piece that goes in here like that. And then we have this plastic piece here, this adapter, and then your carburetor goes right there, of course, with a gasket. And so that just pushes in there like that. And as you can see, we don't need all this excess material because this will not be air cooled by it's called forced air cooling, which is when you have your flywheel blowing air over the fins or a dedicated fan. But we won't be using that method of cooling. We'll just have air cooling that's open to the atmosphere. So basically, there'll be a big propeller on this side sucking air over the whole thing. So we don't need any of this ducting. So we're gonna cut all the excess plastic off. We need the mounting bolts, but we can cut all around them basically. So we'll do that now. I'll let you know when I have this piece trimmed and ready to go. All right, so I got the adapter, intake adapter back on, and you can see where I trimmed the plastic away and tried to clean up as best I could. And then this piece almost looks factory. I did a pretty good job with it, I think. But that's the recoil start, obviously. I left all the bolt holes, of course, but it basically had a bunch more cover that went around everywhere, plastic, and I cut it off. And it really feels wrong doing that to the cover because it's, you know, in good condition. But so here's the top cover for it. Obviously, we won't be putting any of this back on. Oh, yeah, she's got some compression, all right. Like, you really would need to bolt it down to pull it over because I don't know how it's, maybe if I wedge it in my legs. That is so hard. Oh, it's got some serious compression. Of course, since it's a two-stroke, it has no compression release. Didn't even have the spark plug tight, but let's check for spark actually. Because this coil that I put on here, by the way, I put the coil back on. I don't know if it's good or not. I took it off a different weed eater that I think I took it off because it didn't work. But, well, we'll find out, I guess. Well, actually, this ground wire is not connected to anything. I don't know if it needs to be or not. I think it does because I'm not seeing anything. So I'll touch that to some metal. Can't see any spark. Might just be too bright, potentially. Okay, it does make spark. It's just kind of weak. I put a very big coil gap on it. I gapped it to about 28 thousandths or 30 thousandths. So basically, the bigger your coil, when your coil gap's big, that's good for high RPM, which this thing is going to be making some high RPM. I'm thinking somewhere in the ballpark of 9-10 thousandths. And I don't know how much it'll do. And it should be able to do that with under load. I don't know where it makes its peak power, but yeah, seems pretty good. I have the handle here for this. I may use this one, or I may use the one that's on the other engine. You can see the difference in size of the cylinders. Here, I'll give you a better angle here. You can see that this one is just a wee bit bigger. 25cc, 40cc. So one issue with this is that the carburetor goes on like this, and the throttle hooks up right here, and the throttle will pull like this, and the throttle cable will come through here, and then out of here. So it'll be routed back like this, and that's right where the propeller is going to go. So the throttle cable cannot go here. So we'll have to figure something out, like have it come back or something. Then the muffler's kind of in the way. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to figure that out, but I'll have to route the throttle elsewhere because right now it's just, it would go into where the propeller is going to go. But yeah, I got it running. I mounted it to this deck and got it running.
Look at all the smoke in here.
Who was the one doing all the smoking?
What?
What thing was doing all the smoking? There's literally haze in here. It's ultra responsive, and for some reason it vibrates a ton. I didn't mess with the flywheel or anything, so I'm not sure why it vibrates so much, but yeah, basically I just mounted it. I got some more stuff done. I mounted it and just mocked it up, and apparently it works with even the diaphragms it has in it somehow. Even as crusty as they are, it works well enough to run. It looks like it was running a little rich because it was smoking a ton, but yeah. All right, so it's the next day, and I went to the local hardware store and got some stuff for this. We have one of these doohickeys, which is basically just a long nut that should fit this crankshaft. Yeah, it's a little loose on there. So that goes on there like that. Then we have an all thread rod here. We can put that in there like that. Then we have a nylock nut, and I also have another nut I think that'll fit this. And basically, we could even put our kind of flywheel thingy on here. Huh. That might not be fully centered. It would help if we had a perfectly flat, smooth surface on the end of this. So I think I'll go over to the bench grinder and make sure that is a perfectly flat surface. That could also help hold this thing on here a little better, or keep it straight. I want to be able to turn this thing over. Why is that wobbling? At the base here, but must not be straight or something. Okay, so we got it on with the adapters, with some adapters and stuff. I had to drill out the propeller a little bit, but it's on. You can definitely see the wobble. I'll need to try to figure that out, but that's about like what the other one did. But it's solidly attached, so I think we can test fire it a little bit, just a wee bit. The primer doesn't work on this because the primer bulb's all destroyed, so it's going to take a while to get fuel prime. Another thing, the choke lever is right in the path of the blades. That's not how it was on the other one, which is not ideal at all. I can't turn the choke off without it. Okay, so it's scary for a number of reasons. Propeller is super close to this side for some reason, but it's not hitting it. Yeah, so I need to figure out a throttle because you do not want to be reaching in there and messing with that when the propeller's right there. So yeah, we have some work to do, but it's coming along pretty good actually. All right, so we got it. I flipped the muffler around so I can fit this throttle cable under here, and we have idle and WOT, which is good, so I don't have to be reaching in there. And I also trimmed some away from this piece, trimmed all this stuff away, and the choke, I still need to figure something out with that, but basically if you want to do the choke, you can just stick this little thing on and then do that. It's just hard to do when it's running because the propeller's right there. And obviously the primer needs to be fixed, but oh yeah, I also managed to mount this in such a way where it doesn't vibrate as much. It's hard to tell because I have the spark plug in, but it doesn't oscillate around. It's much straighter, so it should have less vibration now. All right, well, let's give this thing a test fire. Oh, an added benefit of the exhaust being flipped around is it blows back into the propeller rather than in front of the propeller. Well, that ain't good. Apparently nothing was tightened down enough. Says that immediately moved. Now it oscillates again because these pieces are shoved against here. For some reason, when that stuff's all sandwiched together, it makes it off center. I don't know, there's nothing I can do about it really. So we'll just tighten it all down, and it'll have to be look at how much I'm vibrating. I don't know why. runs. It probably could use that carb rebuild kit, I'm sure. That would definitely help. So I could properly tune it because it was bogging some at full throttle. But there was a couple good pulls in there where it got up to some serious RPM. I mean, this thing definitely can pull a bigger propeller, there's no doubt. I have no idea how much thrust it was making. We will do a test with this propeller, see how much thrust it's making at some point. But that was cool. All right, so I drilled out the muffler, drilled through the main baffle in there, which should help it flow a little better at high RPM. Give it some gas. Might be running out of fuel or something, I don't know. Well, I got it running correctly somehow. It might have just needed more fuel. Oh no! Propeller. What happened to the propeller? It broke. The tip is gone off of one of the blades. Hang on. Oh, man. If I start it like that. What happened there? I saw something go flying. Did something hit it? Or did it just fly apart like that? I'm not sure why that happened. That's really weird. I believe what caused the propeller to break is probably the oscillation from my kind of ghetto propeller mount. I think that oscillation at super high RPM caused that 13-inch propeller to probably start vibrating a lot, like the tips of the blades. And then at some point it just got weakened and the tip just broke off in that one section. Maybe these blades are not rated for this kind of power. I mean, it was spinning very fast. I didn't have the tachometer on it, but I will put on the screen the max RPM we hit because I can use sound to calculate it. But wow, that's not good at all. Our blade is damaged severely. I mean, I'll need to get a new propeller for it anyways, but I like that one. It was producing some thrust. I think we blew our 6 pounds out of the water. Maybe in the next video, we'll test and see how much thrust it's making. Because this engine is making 2.2 horsepower from what I've researched. And that old engine we had on it was making literally 1 horsepower only. So this is more than double the horsepower because just a newer engine. Makes double the power, over double the power without having double the CCs. But yeah, so it can spin that thing really fast. But yeah, this thing's pretty cool. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.